I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the Live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, May 16th, 2018. At this time, I invite the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Honorable Leona Romeo Marlin, to address you. Prime Minister.
Good morning to all, my colleagues ministers who will soon be here, and members of the press. Good morning, St. Martin. It is a pleasure to return to the press briefing to keep the public informed on matters related to the government. In the absence of the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Cornelius de Wever, who's away on a work visit returning today, I hold the responsibility for matters related to justice, and as such, I met with Mrs. Richelda Rodriguez Emmanuel, Director of the Court of Guardianship, along with two representatives of UNICEF, namely Anna Crone, UNICEF Child Protection Specialist, and Joanna Wedge, UNICEF's Child Protection in Emergencies Training Consultant. Together, the Court of Guardianship of St. Martin and UNICEF will be hosting a 3-day Child Protection in Emergencies training on Friday, May 18th, Monday the 21st, and Tuesday the 22nd from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the University of St. Martin. The CPI training stems from the post-disaster needs assessments UNICEF conducted shortly after Hurricane Irma in September and October last year. The child protection assessment findings revealed the need for child protection to be mainstreamed and strengthened across the disaster management system in preparation for possible future disasters, and the need to increase the understanding of child protection in emergencies among key stakeholders in disaster response. The objectives of the training are as follows. 1, to introduce the key concepts on protecting children from future disasters. 2, to explore the global protection minimum standards and situate them in the context of St. Martin. And 3, the development of a concrete action plan to improve children's protection through their emergency preparedness by each participant or participating institutions or department. In the context of taking charge and strengthening our government institutions during disasters, and as Minister with the responsibility for disaster management, I endorse initiatives such as this workshop as it addresses specific gaps in our disaster preparedness plans for this upcoming hurricane season and beyond. With respect to disaster preparedness and hurricane season 2018, the Emergency Operations Center met for its second meeting this year on Monday, May 14th at the Fire and Ambulance Center in Cahill, Department in Cahill. The Emergency Support Functions Groups, the ESF, presented their internal plans, preparations, and concerns thus far for the upcoming hurricane season. A further working out of these plans will continue within short with the execution of the Taking Charge Disaster Preparedness Conference scheduled for next week, May 24th and 25th at the Bel Air Community Center. The goal of the Disaster Preparedness Conference is to bring together internal and external agencies to have open discussions and presentations that will ultimately lead to a national disaster operational plan that will be available as a reference manual for the entire community. Additionally, members of the disaster management team and ESF 8, which is DCOM, are preparing a communication plan for hurricane season, which will commence within short. As Prime Minister, my objective is to give pertinent information before, during, and post any disaster that may occur on St. Martin. And through this medium, I want to ask the public to also do their part and seek out the relevant information for their immediate family and community. This information should cover personal emergency family planning that takes into account the well-being of your children, household emergency supplies, all insurances, safeguarding important documents, and access to communication sources. Persons are also reminded to be vigilant and act responsibly by avoiding the spread of information that does not originate from official government sources. As I transition to information related to the World Bank and matters related to recovery, I wish to thank Prime Minister Mark Rutte and State Secretary Raymond Knops for their visit on Monday afternoon. In anticipation of the first tranche from the trust fund, the World Bank and the ministries have been working hard during the past months on the final damage and loss assessments and the preparation of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. I am happy to report that this plan is in its final stages and has been sent to the Council of Ministers, Parliament, and stakeholders for vetting. Once completed, the National Recovery and Resilience Plan will be sent to the steering committee responsible for the final decision-making on all future projects to be funded by the Trust Fund. I would like to reiterate that with the support of the World Bank and the Netherlands, the government of St. Maarten has identified a number of emergency projects that should start soon as possible once the first tranche has been disbursed. These first projects aim to address the most urgent needs for our people and for St. Maarten to prepare for the peak of this season, the hurricane season. Of course, one may ask, what is exactly happening now? And of course, we would like for these projects to start yesterday, but time is not on our side, as June 1st, we know, is right around the corner. But the reality is that the preparation of these projects, and especially the internal procedures of the World Bank, take much more time than we as the Council of Ministers anticipated. But please note, 470 million euros is a lot of money, and this government must ensure that every cent is accounted for. With that being said, both the civil servants of St. Maarten and a team from the World Bank of more than 25 people are on the ground right now to help finalize the preparation of these projects. This is necessary to ensure that the formal grant arrangements on these projects can be signed between the World Bank and St. Maarten as soon as possible. The expected timeline that we have right now is that the first emergency projects can start in the course of June. These are projects that specifically address, like I said before, the exact and specific needs of our people and St. Maarten. And if I may reiterate so that the public can know exactly what exactly is going to be helped, especially with our emergency projects. There are three major emergency projects, the first being the disaster preparedness and public utilities. That has been budgeted for $55 million US. And what does that entail? The repairment of the police stations, the repairment and equipment for the fire station, the repairs and equipment for shelters, urgent school repairs, a new location and equipment for the meteorological department, roof repair for vulnerable groups, new ambulances, emergency communication equipment, emergency repairs, electricity and trenching lines, water storage tanks, repairment of street lights. The second emergency project, a second project that provides income and support targeted for training to under and unemployed people in different sectors. This project has been budgeted for $19 million, and there's an existing hospitality training program for about 700 participants. The emergency project opens the program to other sectors for about 2,600 participants. Income support is provided to under and unemployed people who participate in this training program so that they may enhance their skills. And finally, a crucial third project focuses on debris removal and assistance with solid waste management, which currently has a budget of $15 million US. And this entails the Cash for Work program to clean the island, clearance and management of the hurricane debris in the smaller dump, the cleanup of shipwrecks, assistance with preventing new fires, assistance with the plan for sustainable solid waste management, and that is for the bigger dump. Now, during this phase, we are finalizing or finalize the following: the legal requirements to establish the Recovery Bureau, and the advertising of the positions of the Staff Bureau, the financial management provisions and procurement procedures to ensure the start of the projects previously stated. On another note, the World Bank Group organized a training on the new procurement regulations for investments, project financing, borrowers within the Caribbean region. The training was held in the Dominican Republic from May 8th to May 11th. In light of this, 3 members of the Interim Recovery Committee that will be tasked with the execution of procurement according to the World Bank procedures attended the training on behalf of the government of St. Martin. The training was conducted by the World Bank Group procurement specialists, and the following objectives were outlined: the implementation of the first 2 years of the bank's procurement, regulations for IPF borrowers based on experience of the borrowers and emphasis on how the regulations have been applied in the Caribbean. 2, explore the new instruments introduced by the regulations, including the project, procurement strategy for development, and the procurement plan. Learn about the specific aspects of conducting procurement under the regulations, and preview about the bank's new IT platform for procurement. This means that St. Martin will utilize World Bank procedures for the procurement of goods, services, and works financed through the trust fund. Finally, I would like to remind the residents of Dutch Quarter of the open invitation to attend the 10th EDF Sewage Project Town Hall meeting, which will be held this evening at the Dutch Quarter Community Center from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And as you may know, that the 10th EDF Sewage Project was signed off earlier this year in Brussels. In conclusion, this government has been working tirelessly on behalf of you, the people of St. Martin, to ensure that our recovery will be better and stronger should any disaster hit us.
Minister Ferrier will not be making any opening remarks this morning. At this time, the floor is now open for the question and answer session. Hilbert Haar of St. Martin News Online, you have the floor.
Good morning, Prime Minister. I heard Minister Mark Rutte yesterday use the term Leona Marlin and her incoming team. Does this mean that you will be the Prime Minister of the next government? Is that a done deal?
Thank you for your question, Hilbert Haar. I can't comment on Mark Rutte's statement. However, I can't state that I will be the next Prime Minister. That is still unknown at this particular time, should the screening process and the selection of the coalition of who will be Prime Minister and who will be in the cabinet. Once that is known, of course, the general public will know such.
Stephen Cerulean of PJ82, you have the floor.
Thank you. Ministers, good morning. If I may ask a follow-up question to the one of my colleague, Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, Rutte, highly commended you during the press conference. He also stated that there is trust being seen at this time. Also hopeful that you will stay on as the Prime Minister of St. Martin as well to continue the process. Is it your hope, though, as Prime Minister, to continue in your capacity as such?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Cerulean, and my response is as follows. Should the need or the call, should I be asked to be Prime Minister again, I would not say no. It would be an honor to serve, continue to serve St. Martin in this capacity.
The Honorable Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Infrastructure and Environment, the Honorable Miklos Hiterson, will have some opening remarks before we continue our question and answer session. Minister Hiterson, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Roach. Sorry that I'm late. Good morning, Prime Minister, fellow minister, press and audience members viewing and listening. Early Sunday morning at 3:15 a.m., a fire at the main dump began burning profusely. The fire has continued to burn, though it remains contained thanks to the efforts of our fire department. Currently, the technique of allowing the fire to burn out in a controlled manner is being undertaken, where water cannot reach. This technique serves to prevent the fire from reaching other parts of the dump where other debris may be highly flammable. It is with heartfelt regret that I would like to remind everyone to please do as much as possible to avoid the smoke. I assure the people of St. Martin that permanent and viable solutions are underway in dealing with this reoccurring health hazard. Though the cause of the fire is yet to be determined, investigations are ongoing. Right now, we are busy with the Department of Maintenance and St. Martin Recycling NV to start with works to restructure daily operations and management of the sanitary landfill, where we will start to segregate and control all garbage coming into the dump. We will amicably terminate the contract of the present landfill management company, taking heed of what was reported in the SOA Bay report. The dump will be closed and strictly accessible to registered haulers only. Extra security is being placed on the dump to prevent trespassers, and we are finally continuing to cover the garbage with fill, which prevents fires. The fill was recently imported from St. Bart's as it was lacking. The haulers designated for garbage collection in the Cul-de-sac area was not complying with their contract. Therefore, a new hauler was sent in today to proceed with the garbage collection in the Cul-de-sac area, which includes St. Peter's, St. John's, and Ebenezer Estate. Last Monday, I sat down with General Director of the Windward Islands Reconstruction, Mr. Hans Leitens, and we discussed and concluded that the very next step towards an ideal solution for our dump is to appoint a waste project manager. As Mr. Leitens returns to the Netherlands this week, he will meet with the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water in regards to support St. Martin with a waste project manager. In 2 weeks, Mr. Leitens will return to St. Martin and have an extensive meeting with all related parties and myself to discuss appointing a waste project manager. This individual will facilitate the establishment of the much-needed waste authority. Mr. Leitens indicated that the deadline to appoint a waste project manager is October 2018. This, of course, must be done sooner, seeing the urgency. I would like to also make mention that it was recently reported in the French media that the French landfill located in French Cul-de-sac will be open to free dumping for 1 month in relation to the French side's cleanup campaign. So I would like to urge all those who have been dumping French garbage at the Dutch side's landfill to please make use of this opportunity to dump the French side's garbage for free at the French landfill. Due to weather and wear and tear, more potholes are emerging at various spots on the island, which is especially obvious on Canagita Street in Phillipsburg. Though we are experiencing a slight delay, island-wide road repairs have been scheduled. The asphalt production plant, which is currently down, has been awaiting the arrival of new equipment and supplies to continue production and commence road repairs. Hopefully, repairs to the asphalt plant go as planned for asphalt production and road repairs to begin this weekend. The international arm of the Association of Municipalities of the Netherlands, called VNG International, has secured funding from contributions of various municipalities in the Netherlands to assist with the reconstruction on St. Martin. Yesterday, May 15th, I briefly met with Gert-Jan van Leeuwen, a consultant from VNG International, who is currently spearheading a 3-day workshop to staff of RUMI and other related government organizations, including external engineering firms. The organization's goal and purpose are to strengthen local governments in areas of building regulations, specifically norms and standards of the building code regarding natural disasters. The theme of the presentation is Building Back Better through an enhanced resilience program. After the seminar, VNG will submit a proposal for the updated building code. The updated building code will be partly based on input from the local stakeholders who attended the workshop. The proposal will be reviewed by the Council of Ministers and Parliament for approval. The work of the VNG consultant is scheduled to be completed in August 2018. A draft of the legal framework is already completed. However, it is a matter of which norms will be applied in which cases. This concludes my subject matters for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Heatherson, for your opening remarks. We now go back over to the question and answer session. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and to the ministers that are here today. And conversation with the dump. Mr. Gittison, Minister Gittison, the Prime Minister mentioned there are monies allotted to, I don't sure if it's a quick fix, but what will be, it will be a quick fix, the dam gonna be eradicated permanently. And the present company that, well, I understand you said now that the contract have ended. This company was not carrying out a good job. What was the problem?
Thanks for the question, sir. The current issue with the dump, it's in the SOAB report that it was a bid that was too low, tender too low last year. And yeah, now because of that, it's on both sides, it was known that the present management on the dump could not afford to execute the task exactly. Because of financial reasons. So now we are not terminating the contract fully like that. It's an amicable termination. So we still have to discuss with them exactly what will happen.
Yeah, another question, Prime Minister. Media in Curacao have reported that Adama Duran is going to be the head of the National Security Service in Curacao, which means that he is leaving the Landsrecherche in St. Martin. I also understand that the Landsrecherche is heavily understaffed. The formation plan is 23 full-time equivalents, and currently they have 13. How are you going to address that situation?
Thank you for that question. Hilbertard, as you know, I'm the acting Minister of Justice right now, but that does not mean that I will answer that question. I think the Minister, Cornelius de Weaver, will give a more adequate answer to that, but I'm sure that should there be any issue as it relates to the understaff of such a critical department, I am sure that he will take the necessary measures to ensure that a replacement comes there, should that be needed. And yes, indeed, I did read about the appointment of Adama Duran, but the intricacies of it or how long it is, I am not sure about, so it is unfair for me to comment on such.
Stephen Cerulean, you have the floor.
My question is for the Minister of Finance, Mike Ferrier. There is still yet a president director to be appointed at the Central Bank of Curacao and St. Martin. How closer are you, meaning Curacao and St. Martin, in appointing a director for the Central Bank?
Thank you, Stephen. Getting closer, definitely, and the reason why I say that is because I know that there is an assessment going on tomorrow of the candidates that have been put forward. St. Martin is very proud to have put forward a candidate. There's at least one candidate from Curacao, and a third one may be included in that, but definitely the two that we know of are being assessed tomorrow that we know of.
Minister Mike Ferrier, how is St. Martin looking now, seeing that there will be some execution from the 550 million? How's St. Martin looking now?
St. Martin always looked great to me. It's looking better every day, and now that the tranches are coming loose, it's going to look even better. But St. Martin looks great because of who St. Martin is and the people of St. Martin. We are a proud people. We have not sat on our laurels, as we call it. We have pulled up our socks and we have started to rebuild with what we had. That rebuilding happened with insurance monies that have been paid out. It happened with savings monies that we had. It happened with us working and toiling and keep plugging at rebuilding St. Martin. And it happened because we want to clean up St. Martin ourselves. The fact that now the tranche, first tranche has been released, I think it's going to be so much more pleasant, so much easier for us to be able to afford the things that we need to do, including making sure we have enough shelters. As the Prime Minister just mentioned, the items that are going to be funded out of the first tranche includes shelters. Up to now, you have to understand that it was difficult to even consider where to rebuild and how to rebuild with a shortage of construction people, with a shortage of construction material. But now that the tranche has come loose, I think it is going to be a bit easier because we'll be able to waive cash, and cash is still king.
But on the same note, what you would say to the people who are constantly speaking negative about St. Martin? St. Martin is doomed. St. Martin gonna take 4 years before it can recover. Say something to these people.
I think those people that are saying negative things probably are not living here, because if they live here, they can see very well that St. Martin is very much alive and St. Martin is doing what it's doing best, getting back on its feet with whatever it has. I do fly around sometimes to different islands, and I can tell you, in comparison to other islands that have been hit in the Caribbean, including owned by the United States of America, St. Martin is light years ahead. And St. Martin is light years ahead again because of the resilience of its people. End of story.
Thank you so much. My question though is for Minister Gitteson. Last year, former Prime Minister William Marlin suggested that because they had beefed up security at the landfill, that for a long time there were no fires. Could you tell me what the situation of the security around the landfill is right now? How many people are deployed there on a daily basis?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Har. I do not know the exact number of security personnel that's working at the dump, but I know that it's definitely not enough. I was informed that the security that was there last year is not there anymore, so therefore there are more fires, and that's why right now we will be placing extra security on the dump. You're welcome.
Stephen Cerulean.
Minister Gitteson, interestingly, a while ago you mentioned that haulers from the front side have been making use of the dump over here. You're urging them to make use of the front side dump. My question to you is, how much of the French garbage do we accept on that side? And is there a fee paid to the Dutch side for accepting the garbage?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Cerulean. Currently, we do not have a scale in place at the dump here on the Dutch side, so we cannot calculate exactly how much garbage is coming in from the Dutch or the French side. So we are busy right now getting a new scale, I believe, from Puerto Rico. And once that is in place, then we can calculate exactly how much garbage is coming in general. But it would be difficult for us to figure out which is coming from the French side and not, because a lot of the garbage that's being dumped on our Dutch dump comes with Dutch license plate vehicles. So we don't really know where such a vehicle would come from, if it's French or Dutch side. But we are busy getting a new scale in place so we can calculate those numbers. And sorry, the second question was? Oh, they don't pay anything on the Dutch side as yet, but it will be implemented sooner than later. Thank you.
If I may add, paying for getting rid of your garbage, as the minister has mentioned in some weeks before, will definitely become a thing of the future for St. Martin. And our people need to be prepared for that. On the French side, it has been implemented quite some time ago. And with our open borders, we have good and bad. And when you have to pay for something on one side and not have to pay for something, for the same thing on the other side, guess what? The flow will be towards the side where you don't need to pay. And if you add to that a contract that did not allow or did not give us adequate security and adequate people at the beginning of the dump to say, hey, you know, you can't come in here, you end up with a situation where people will make use of the free landfill. And so I personally applaud the efforts of our present Minister of Fromme for making it happen, that finally we're going to get to a point where the control is such that everyone is going to have to pay their fair share of the services that is expected of a government. St. Martin has gone through a lot, and St. Martin alone, as half an island even, simply cannot afford to get out of this thing alone. We need everyone to contribute in one way or the other. And the efforts that this cabinet of Prime Minister Leona Marlin, of which I'm very proud to be a part of, has made, and the things that we've put together now in the 4 months that we've been there, I think will be beneficial to St. Martin for many, many, many years to come if we all take it in stride and be positive about how we go about things. And this is one of the things that needs to happen.
Lyndon Brown?
Okay, on the basis of the conversation on the dump, let me just clear it up a little bit. The minister may not understand. Those trucks that you're seeing with the French license plate, these companies are not French-owned company. It's Dutch side company that are registered on the Dutch side. One question: do they have the right, if they get a job on the French side, to pull the garbage over here? I mean, they register here on the Dutch side, but sometimes they maybe get job on the French side. Do they have the right to dump the garbage over here, seeing that they are Dutch registered business?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Brown. No, they do not have the right to dump the garbage over here. That's the purpose that the French side has their landfill in French cul-de-sac. It is for the French garbage. The open border treaty is an open border for people and goods, but we don't really consider garbage goods, if you understand what I'm saying.
So that's why I'm clearing it, because a lot of people maybe think that these trucks that they're seeing is
No.
coming. It's coming directly from the French side. It's Dutch. Let me repeat it again. Dutch side company trucks.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they are hired to do work on the French side. to collect French garbage. Therefore, the French garbage should be disposed at the French landfill.
So maybe there's a misconception of the cross-border. Maybe there's a
Well,
misconception.
I have been in the media in the past telling them over and over to please stop bringing over the French side garbage to our Dutch landfill. So I don't think they should be misinformed or anything, because it has been reported in the media that we would like this to stop.
I'm chomping at the bit to get into this conversation. Dutch operators with French license trucks, you said? That alone is an issue. That alone is an issue as far as I'm concerned. Because you're operating on the Dutch side, you should operate in accordance with the laws, including the traffic laws of the Dutch side and the registration of vehicles on the Dutch side. But that's, we live on a Dutch-French island with open borders, and we know things happen. But French garbage should go to the French side. Dutch garbage should go to the Dutch side. The fact of the matter is, on the French side, you got to pay to get in to dump. On the Dutch side, you do not have to pay. And so we are going to equal, the minister is going to equal that situation, balance it out, so there will be charges on both sides. And I guarantee you, the trucker will choose the shortest route to the quickest place he can dump if the charges are the same. If the charges on the Dutch side are 0 and X on the French side, they'll drive extra hours to get to the free side. But if they're the same charge, they're going to go to the closest dump, which will then be the French side. So we'll solve that problem.